Hi, my name is Neil. I'm a qualified AAT accounting technician and have been involved in education for well over a decade. Occasionally, I find students coming to me and asking how the qualification they're studying is actually going to aid them in the workplace. Today, what I'm going to do is demonstrate just a couple of skills that you would pick up on the spreadsheet unit on the Level 3 AAT accounting qualification that you may be considering here at MOL. But first, a bit of context. I had a situation where a director wanted to explain the month-by-month takings over the past 2 years to the workers in her factory. The problem is that her workers were not financially literate, so presenting them with spreadsheet data would have meant nothing to them, and she wanted to make her message as clear as possible. What we're going to be demonstrating here is how we used a floating average to smooth out the graph that we produced, and then put in a trend line to make the message as clear as possible. It is a simple but real-life example of where the skills on the Level 3 AAT accounting qualification is going to aid you in your career.
Hello and welcome back again. Right, here's the spreadsheet I was talking about earlier. You'll see on the bottom left there's a tab that says Sage Data. That's got about 58,000 lines of figures on it. I haven't got the company's permission to show you that data, and it's beyond the scope of this video to look at it anyway. The skills to summarize that data is something that you can pick up on course. What I've already done is summarize that data and put it into this summary sheet. Let me just zoom in a bit there. And here we can see the sales figures for 2012-13 and 2013-14. And these were the figures that I was telling you about that was used to produce this graph. As you can see, it's quite spiky. I'll just zoom in a bit there. An example there you see in September. There's a massive spike in sales in 2012-13 in September. This could be due to people who normally place orders in August doing it a bit late, people who do it in October doing it a bit early. But regardless, it results in a graph that is quite difficult to read. So I'm going to show you a couple of skills on how to just smooth that out and make it more understandable, particularly for people that aren't completely familiar on how to read data such as this. Right, here we're back at our summary sheet. I'm going to copy these two cells across into columns D and E. That's because what we're going to be doing is populating those columns with a floating average. Well, in fact, Excel calls it a moving average, so we'll change that. But it's still going to be our total turnover, so I'm going to copy that label over as well. I'm not overly bothered about the formatting in this case because we're not really presenting this data to anybody. We're just using it to create a graph. Now we're going to be creating a moving average over quarter, which involves 3 months. So we would average June, July and August to populate the August cell, July, August, September to populate the September cell, and so on and so forth. This also does mean that we're not going to have figures for June and July because we need 3 months to be able to populate a figure. Now I can do this manually by going equals, entering the formula average and selecting the 3 cells, closing the brackets and hitting return. Or I can automate this quickly by using Excel's built-in data analysis features. To do that, I'm going to go to the Data tab, click on Data Analysis, hit the M key to move down to Moving Averages, and select it. I'm then going to click on that button, that one there, yep, to go and select the data that I want a floating average of. Get it to enter in. I need to state that I'm not using any labels. So I uncheck that because I haven't selected the 2013-14 box. And I want the average to be over 3 months. So the interval will be 3. And then I need to say where I want the new data to go. And it's going to start there in cell D6. And then I'm going to click OK. I could click Chart Output, but because I want to do the chart manually, I'm just going to click OK and get my figures. Notice the first two are not applicable because it doesn't have 3 months worth of data to average. That's not a problem. I'm now going to repeat the process for my moving average in 2012-13. Again, I'm going to select the data that I want to use. Make sure that it's a 3-month interval, and then state where I want the data to be put. And click OK. There we go. I'm just going to neaten that up a little bit because we don't need all those decimal places. So I'm going to right click, go Format Cells, change it to a number, and reduce the decimal places to 0. In fact, to make it even easier to read, what I'm going to do is right click again, go back to Format Cells, and include a 1000 separator. Right, my data is about ready to put into a chart. So I'm going to select all the data I want included in our chart, including our month labels. I'm going to click on the tab Insert, go across to the different charts, and I'm going to select a line chart. That'll drop it into the same spreadsheet for me. There are a couple of changes I want to make. You can see already that those figures have been smoothed out into a graph that is far less spiky than the one we were looking at earlier. I'm going to right click on the right scale because there's a lot of wasted space there. And I'm going to format the scale, and I'm just going to change the scale to be the same as the chart we looked at earlier, changing my minimum to 80,000 because the graph doesn't go below it, and change my maximum to 140,000 because it doesn't go above that. And it just spreads those lines out a little bit, makes it a little bit more easy to read. What I also want to do is move my chart into the Graph tab, just so that we can have a side-by-side comparison. So I'm going to select Move Chart, and I'm not going to create a new one. I'm going to move the object to Graph and click OK. And what it'll do is it'll copy my chart across to the same page where we had the original chart. I'm going to just move it to be alongside and just increase its size by dragging on the bottom right hand corner. Now these two charts represent the exact same data. The one, however, has been smoothed out using a moving average. I can make this even simpler to understand by including something called a trend line. I'm going to do that for each of these two lines by right clicking on them and adding a trend line. By default, this will be a linear trend. There's several different trends that are available, which you can learn about on the course. I'm going to do this for the other line as well, and you'll see it adds two dotted lines, which are straight lines that even further represent the trend within the organization. So what you can see with the orange dotted line is that the profit has slowly been increasing, and the trend is that it continues to go up. The same thing with the blue line. In fact, you can see that the blue line is slightly steeper, which would indicate that over the last 2 years, the profitability of the organization has been growing and growing at a faster rate. And this is the message that you wanted to get over to the factory workers. Right, there's still a bit of work to do on this chart before it goes in the director's presentation. Things like chart titles and labels that are incorrect at the moment, and perhaps changing the formatting slightly so that it's a little bit easier to read on screen. There we go. We're not going to go into that right now. These are the sort of skills that you'll be able to pick up by doing the AAT course here at MOL. This was just a bit of a taster of how these skills can be useful to you in the workplace. As a final note, before you try and research the company I've just been speaking about, the name is purely coincidental because I've changed the name from the original company. And I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this taster and it's inspired you to push your career forward by joining us here on the AAT courses at MOL. Thank you for spending some time with me, and hope to see you soon.